Watch out, China. Joe Biden is ready for war. I mean, just the other day, the US president sent up a jet to blast a $17 hobby balloon like this one right out of the sky with a heat-seeking Sidewinder missile worth $500,000. That really taught a lesson to the Northern Illinois Bottle Cap Balloon Brigade, which reckons that balloon is actually theirs, one they sent up for ham radio fans. Biden also shot down 2 other balloons that he now admits were just as innocent.
The intelligence community's current assessment is that these 3 objects were most likely balloons tied to private companies, recreation or research institutions studying weather or conducting other scientific research.
Now, while some ham radio fans in Illinois might have been put back in their box by that Sidewinder, what lessons China takes from this, well, they're a little more serious. For a start, they may well conclude that Biden jumps like a rabbit when under the slightest media pressure. I mean, why did he suddenly start shooting down harmless hobby balloons like it was in some sideshow shooting gallery? Because the reason, it seems, there was a real threat, a real Chinese spy balloon, and when that turned up, bigger than a house, Biden let it float for a week, clear over the entire continental United States. So he couldn't take the heat, so he started shooting down weather balloons and radio ham balloons and whatever. So that's the first conclusion, that this is not a strong or calm president. And I wonder if that really explains why China has been contemplating defying the United States warnings, which have been backed by threats, not to supply Russian President Vladimir Putin with weapons or ammunition for his disastrous invasion of Ukraine. Now, certainly the US must reckon it's got intelligence suggesting that China's contemplating exactly that, which is why Secretary of State Anthony Blinken rushed to meet the Chinese foreign minister to say, "Don't you dare."
We are very concerned that China is considering providing lethal support to Russia in its aggression against Ukraine, and I made clear that that would have serious consequences in our relationship as well, something that President Biden has shared directly with President Xi on several occasions.
Yet it seems China may well be contemplating daring. In fact, its Foreign Minister Wang Yi refused point blank on the weekend to rule out starting another war even by invading democratic Taiwan.
For you to reassure this audience that a military escalation over the Taiwan issue is not imminent.
I will briefly assure the audience that Taiwan is part of Chinese territory. Taiwan separatist forces are threatening our sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Now, there's one other thing about that $17 balloon and the other 2 innocent ones that Biden shot down. 4 missiles were used. 1 missed. 4 missiles when the US is actually running out of them and other ammunition. Now, I know 4 missiles actually isn't much at all. But this missile problem is a big deal because the US is sending more to Ukraine and all sorts of other ammunition too, more to Ukraine than it can quickly replace. And NATO, the European Defence Organisation, same problem.
The current rate of ammunition consumption is bigger than the current rate of production. That's a factual thing.
Now, hang on here. The US and Europe are running out of... Now, hang on here. You've got the US and Europe running out of ammunition, using more, faster than they can replace, when they're helping just one country defend itself from Russia. That's just one theatre of war, and they're not even sending their own troops, by the way. And suddenly it's like, where's the ammunition? So how much more trouble would the US and Europe and others be in if they themselves were fighting this war? And not just in Ukraine, but in a wider theatre, like, in a world war, I think China maybe. And that's, of course, why around the West now, the US, Europe, Japan, Australia, governments have had an almighty scare, and they're now figuring ways to step up production of weapons and ammunition very fast. But that, of course, all takes time, which should make us realize that as of now, there is just one winner from the war in Ukraine. Now, don't get me wrong here. I totally support helping Ukraine, because if Russia won there, who'd be next to be invaded? And by whom? I mean, China, for instance. But like I say, there's just one winner from this war so far, and that winner is China. Have a think, only one major military power has not sent a missile or even a bullet to that war. China. Stockpiles are huge. There's only one major military power that isn't now complaining that it's short of ammunition. Again, that's China. And there's only one major military power that has profited from the sanctions that so many in the West have slapped on Russia, banning its oil, banning its gas. And that again is China. Russia has been forced by these sanctions to sell more of its gas and some of its coal and oil too to China. And at bargain prices. Russia now sells more oil to China than do the Saudis. And China sure isn't banning these Russian supplies because it loves getting them so cheap. Russia's gas and oil and coal, it helps make China much stronger. So we have a problem here. We've got a war in Ukraine that's draining the West, but leaving China stronger by the day, relative to the West. China's getting stronger, while the US under Joe Biden is jumping at shadows, wasting its missiles by shooting cheap hobby balloons out of the air. Really, Joe Biden, how much longer can the West afford him?